We got a following. People started asking us, can we pay you to do this? I was like, that's okay, yeah, cool. Got educated around business, and then we started working with the social housing providers, looking at people who have responsibility for large groups of people, but mental health isn't necessarily their focus, but they still have to. Some people like to tick boxes. We try not to work with those guys, but they have a budget for this type of stuff. And we use that money, and since April last year, 22, we've worked with 7,500 people, free, no waiting lists, no boundaries, no barriers, and we've done that using a social enterprise model, 95% self-funded. Now, I'm not saying we'll never reach out for funding, because we're actually preparing the lottery bid as we speak. But what I'm trying to say, that's only half the funding. But what I'm trying to say is sustainability and the power of social enterprise to be a model where you literally are in the driving seat. With all due respect to commissioners and funders, you are able to innovate and literally innovate in exactly the way you want to, and not have to dance to the tune of people who have pots of money.
There is absolutely a real mental health burden, but actually there's a difference between real mental health diagnoses, as in, you know, people who meet DSM criteria for prevailing mental illness, versus people who are just having a really difficult time with life stress, and really difficult time with psychological and social factors. And I think that's the bigger problem, and that's where we need to be putting our energies.
Yeah, so I think we can go a step further as well. So not just kind of demedicalising stuff, deprofessionalising stuff. I think there's a lot of stuff that's in the professional space, because professionals, me included, at one point, made it our business. We kind of monopolised the mental health problem. Why? It's not, first of all, obviously we're like the big truck, aren't we? Like, we take responsibility for stuff, we have the biggest budget, all this type of stuff. But if we look at the services that we're providing, some services are good, obviously, but some aren't efficient for lots of different reasons. I'm not trying to ascribe blame to anybody, but there's a lot of things in communities that people, person to person, citizen to citizen, can do it just as good, if not better, than a professional can. The best highlights of my professional career was when it had nothing to do with the intervention I was providing, it was how I was doing it. And I've kind of come full circle on my professional journey, because I'm from just up the road, I'm from Everton. And this world was completely new to me when I first stepped into it. I don't have any reference point before it. I don't have any family in this world, even in the university world. You know, I was kind of the first one to do it. But I went into my training, I feel, looking back now, with a lot of the skills that I came out with, and it was people skills. And I go back to the place where I'm from, and it's not like there's a guy there who's got one leg because he's used heroin since he was 15. He's 50 odd now, and he's done this, he's done that, and everything else. And I don't give him the label that I would when I had a lanyard on in a professional setting. I call him Mark because that's his name. His name's Mark. You know, what are you doing, Mark? Oh, blah blah blah. You know, and it's like we forget that relationship.
You have to educate on, you know, how to sit with sadness, how to sit with grief, how to go to the gym to fight your sadness, how to eat better when you're in the moment of grief. You know, all of this has to come from an early age, and it has to be part of how we are bringing up young people. We cannot bring up young people to be aspiring towards wanting to be happy, and if they're not happy, wanting to be happy tomorrow, because we're just bringing people up to fail. And then when we are trying to introduce the lifestyle measures, we've passed the point. We've passed the point where they're open to change. So if we can bring people up knowing that lifestyle is where it's at for everything, both physical and mental health, then we're not going to be in a situation where we're trying to convince them halfway down the line when it's too late that they need to be looking at their diet. You know, it's really difficult to get somebody who is so depressed to go to a gym. And again, I totally agree with you. I think social prescribers and health and wellbeing workers. So for anyone who doesn't know, the NHS England have given all networks in England the ability to have these workers within surgeries as free staff, which is brilliant, and we've got lots of them. But again, I think that has to be preventative. They can't be meeting people when they're in the darkest moments, because they're not going to be able to successfully implement the tools that they have. And I also think we have these workers, but we make it so prescriptive. So an example of it is, you know, in Liverpool, we can give exercise for health passes, but actually, who wants to go to a lifestyles gym, you know, and walk in where there's 100 people looking at you in your swimsuit and the pool's 2 degrees? Like, I wouldn't do it. So why am I asking Jim, who's really depressed, to do it? You know, that's not the way forward. But if you say to them, there are thousands of personal trainers out there who've approached the NHS and said, I want to do this, we can make a difference. And the NHS says, no, it's just Garston Lifestyles. What? Like, it's just so inflexible. So I absolutely agree that I think lifestyle medicine's where it's at, but it has to be preventative. And I also feel like the government, we need flexibility in our approaches, and it can't be one treatment fits all. It needs to be flexible around the patient.